There is a ghost that haunts you. It doesn't rattle chains or slam doors. It speaks in your own voice in the dead quiet of 3 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake, every moment of weakness. This ghost is the architect of your own prison. It is the part of you that agreed long ago to be a doormat, and it has issued a decree, a silent contract you signed with your inaction and your fear. The doormat's decree. It has only one law: you are not enough. This decree dictates your life. It's the reason you say yes when your soul screams no. It's the force that makes you apologize when you've done nothing wrong. It's the whisper that tells you to stay small, stay safe, don't rock the boat because your worth is conditional, a fragile thing granted to you by the approval of others. You have allowed the world to wipe its feet on your spirit, leaving the mud of its expectations and the grime of its judgments all over you, and you thank it for the privilege. But a part of you is listening to this right now for a reason. A spark of rebellion, a flicker of divine rage, refuses to be extinguished. That part knows the decree is a lie. It knows that within you is the capacity for something more. Not just strength, but an unbreakable frame. A structure of self so solid, so rooted in principle, that the storms of external opinion and the manipulations of others break against it like waves against a cliff. Today we shatter that contract. We take that decree and we burn it in the fires of Stoic resolve. This is not a gentle self-help talk. This is mental warfare. This is the manual for forging that unbreakable frame in 5 Stoic steps. This is the doormat's decree, forging an unbreakable frame in 5 Stoic steps. Forget who you were when you clicked on this video. By the end, you will have the tools to become someone or something else entirely. Someone whose silence is more powerful than another's scream. Someone whose presence commands respect before a single word is spoken. Let the forging begin. Step 1. The declaration of the Inner Citadel. The first and most fundamental law of the doormat's decree is this: your emotional state is a public utility, available for anyone to manipulate. Your peace of mind is a commodity to be bought and sold by the whims of your boss, your partner, your clients, and the faceless strangers on the internet. A harsh word can ruin your day. A bit of criticism can shatter your confidence. A lack of praise can make you feel worthless. You have outsourced the control of your own soul. The first step in forging your frame is to declare absolute sovereign control over your inner world. The Stoics called this the Inner Citadel. It is the fortress of your mind, the one place in the entire universe over which you have total command. Everything outside of it, what people say, what they do, whether they like you, whether the economy crashes, whether the storm comes, is beyond your control. You must learn to see these things as the weather. You cannot stop the rain, but you can decide not to stand in it and curse the sky. You can retreat inside your fortress. Forging this citadel isn't about ignoring the world. It's about creating a command center from which you observe the world without being its victim. This is where you define your own values, your own principles, your own definition of success and failure, completely independent of external validation. Consider the story of Marcus, a programmer who was a master of his craft but a slave to anxiety. He worked for a fast-paced tech startup where the culture was one of brutal feedback. Every code review felt like a personal attack. Every bug discovered felt like a verdict on his intelligence. He lived by the doormat's decree. his mood swinging violently with every Slack message. If his manager said, "Good work," he was on top of the world. If a junior developer found a flaw in his logic, he'd spiral into a night of self-loathing, convinced he was an imposter. His breaking point came during a major product launch. He had worked 80-hour weeks for a month straight. The launch was a success, but in the post-launch meeting, the CEO, while praising the team, made a single offhand comment about a minor UI glitch that had been Marcus's responsibility. "We need to be more detail-oriented next time," the CEO said, not even looking at him. For everyone else, it was a throwaway line. For Marcus, it was a public execution. The success, the sacrifice, the exhaustion, all of it was erased by those 7 words. He went home and felt nothing. Not joy, not relief. Just a hollow, echoing shame. That night, something inside him snapped. He realized he had given a stranger, a man he barely knew, the power to nullify his entire existence with a single sentence. He had built his home on the shifting sands of another person's opinion. That was the night he began to build his citadel. He took out a journal and for the first time didn't write about his feelings. He wrote his principles. He wrote, "Principle 1, my work is a reflection of my effort and skill, not my inherent worth. Principle 2, feedback is data, not a judgment. Its only purpose is to improve the next iteration. It has no power over my identity. Principle 3. My definition of a successful day is one where I apply my principles, regardless of the outcome." He started his new practice the very next day. When a colleague pointed out a mistake, he didn't flinch. He didn't apologize profusely. He looked at the code, saw the logic, and said, "You're right. That's a more efficient way to do it. Thank you." He treated the feedback like a tool he was being handed, not a weapon he was being stabbed with. He felt the old sting of shame try to rise, but he observed it from the walls of his new citadel. He watched it, acknowledged it, and let it pass like a cloud in the sky. He did not let it enter the gates. This is your first actionable step. Stop journaling about how you feel and start journaling about what you value. Write your own personal constitution. What are your non-negotiable principles for your life, your work, your relationships? Define what success means to you. Define what integrity means to you. This document becomes the law of your inner citadel. Everything else is just noise from the outside world. When the world screams at you, you retreat to your fortress and consult your own law. The doormat is desperate for a verdict from the outside. The unbreakable frame contains its own judge and its own jury. Step 2. The forge of voluntary hardship. The second law of the doormat's decree is, comfort is king. Avoid friction at all costs. Never seek out difficulty. The path of least resistance is not just a path, it is a holy mandate. This is why the doormat is so pliable, so weak. A life lived in constant pursuit of comfort creates a spirit as soft and fragile as an overripe fruit. It bruises at the slightest touch. When real, unavoidable hardship arrives, and it always does, the comfort seeker shatters. To forge an unbreakable frame, you must do the opposite. You must actively and intentionally introduce difficulty into your life. You must build a tolerance for discomfort, for pain, for friction. You must become an addict of voluntary hardship. The Stoics understood this profoundly. They practiced poverty to be unafraid of losing wealth. They endured cold and hunger to be masters of their own bodies. They didn't wait for life to test them. They tested themselves daily. This is the forge. Your frame isn't woven from gentle affirmations. It's hammered into shape on the anvil of difficulty, heated in the fires of things you don't want to do. Let's return to our programmer Marcus. After building the foundations of his inner citadel, he realized that his mind was stronger, but his body and his will were still soft. He hated conflict. He hated physical exertion. He loved the comfort of his ergonomic chair and the predictable glow of his monitor. His decree was to maximize ease. So he started his forging process. It began with a single, cold shower. The first morning he stood before the faucet, his mind racing with 100 excuses. It's too cold, it's pointless, it's just masochism. This was the voice of the doormat, the voice of comfort. He ignored it. He turned the knob to full cold and stepped in. The shock was electric, a primal scream from every nerve ending. His breathing was ragged, his whole body tense. But he forced himself to stay, to breathe, to relax into the shock. After 30 seconds that felt like an eternity, he stepped out, his skin tingling, his mind utterly and completely silent. For the first time in years, the endless chatter of anxiety was gone, replaced by a singular, vibrant clarity. He had just taught his body a new lesson. You can endure this. You are in command, not your fleeting desire for comfort. The cold shower became a daily ritual, but it was just the beginning. He applied the principle of voluntary hardship elsewhere. He identified the most difficult, anxiety-inducing task on his to-do list each day and did it first, a practice he called swallowing the frog. He started going to a jiu-jitsu gym. As a cerebral introvert, the idea of close-quarters physical struggle with other men was terrifying. In his first few months, he was tapped out constantly. He was twisted into pretzels by people half his size. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to quit, to go back to the safety of his keyboard. But he kept showing up, because he realized something profound on those mats. Jiu-jitsu wasn't about fighting another person. It was about fighting his own panic, his own ego, his own instinct to quit when things got hard. Each time he was in an uncomfortable, claustrophobic position, he learned to stop panicking and start thinking. He learned to be comfortable in the chaos. He was forging his frame under literal physical pressure. The effects bled into every area of his life. The difficult conversation he needed to have with his landlord about a leak. After facing down a 220-pound wrestler, it seemed trivial. The high-stakes presentation to the board. After learning to think while being metaphorically choked, public speaking felt like a walk in the park. He had systematically raised his pain tolerance, and in doing so, he had shrunk the power of everything that once terrified him. Your second actionable step is to create your own forge of discomfort. Pick one thing, just one. It doesn't have to be a cold shower or martial arts. It has to be something you know is good for you, but that you avoid because it is hard. Waking up an hour earlier to read or exercise. Making the sales call you've been dreading. Choosing the stairs instead of the elevator every single time. Committing to a fasting protocol for a day. Speaking up in a meeting when you normally stay silent. Choose your hardship. Do it consistently. The point is not the act itself. The point is the message you are sending to your own mind. I no longer serve comfort. I serve growth. The doormat bends to pressure. The unbreakable frame seeks it out because it knows that pressure is what turns carbon into diamond. Step 3. The architect of perception. The third and most insidious law of the doormat's decree is this: what happens to you is what defines you. You are a passive recipient of events. A bad outcome is a personal failure. A rejection is proof of your inadequacy. A setback is a sign that you should give up. Your reality is painted by the raw, unfiltered, emotional reaction to circumstance. You are not the artist. You are merely the canvas. To shatter this law is to seize the paintbrush. It is to become the architect of your own perception. The Stoics taught that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The event itself is neutral. It is just data. A job loss is not inherently bad. It is the end of one income stream and the start of a period of transition. That is the objective reality, the story we tell ourselves about it. A failure, I'll never recover, this is a catastrophe, is the judgment. And it is this judgment, not the event, that causes suffering. Forging an unbreakable frame requires you to become a master storyteller, with your own life as the subject. You must learn to separate objective events from your subjective interpretation, and then consciously choose an interpretation that empowers you. Let's check back in with Marcus. He's been building his citadel and forging himself in hardship. He's feeling stronger, more centered. And then a real test arrives. The company he works for is acquired by a larger corporation. Layoffs are announced. His entire department is made redundant. He, along with all his colleagues, is laid off. The old Marcus would have been destroyed. This event would have been the ultimate confirmation of his imposter syndrome. It would have been a catastrophe, a brutal personal failure. He would have seen it as proof that all his hard work was for nothing. The doormat's decree would have screamed in his ear, "See, you tried and you still lost. You're worthless." But this is the new Marcus. He gets the news and he feels the initial shock, the fear, the anger. He observes these feelings from his citadel. He doesn't deny them, but he doesn't grant them control. He goes home, and instead of spiraling, he takes out his journal and performs what the Stoics called the view from above. He visualizes himself floating above his city, then his country, then the earth itself, looking down on the tiny, insignificant drama of his job loss in the grand, cosmic scheme of things. He sees the billions of other lives, the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars. This doesn't make his problem feel meaningless. It puts it in perspective. It drains the emotional charge from it. Then he becomes the architect. He writes down the objective event. My employment contract with Company X has been terminated. That's it. No story, no judgment, just a fact. Then on the next page, he writes potential interpretations. The doormat's interpretation. I failed. I wasn't good enough to keep. I am now adrift and my future is ruined. The architect's interpretation. My mandatory service to someone else's vision has ended. I have been given the gift of time and a severance package. This is a state-sanctioned sabbatical to build my own project, the one I've been too afraid to start. The universe has forced my hand because it knows I wouldn't have had the courage to jump myself. This is not a setback, it's a launch pad. He chooses to build his reality around the second interpretation. Does it change the fact that he has to find a new source of income? No, but it changes everything about how he approaches that problem. Instead of frantically and desperately applying for any job that will take him, he sees this as a period of immense opportunity. He uses his severance to live frugally and starts building the small, independent software application he's been dreaming about for years. The layoff, which would have been the end of the story for the doormat, becomes the inciting incident for the hero's journey. This is your third actionable step, the practice of cognitive reframing. The next time something bad happens to you, you get criticized, you fail at a task, you get rejected, perform this three-step process. Isolate the event. Write down exactly what happened as if you were a camera recording it. No emotion, no judgment. She said no. The project was not approved. I scored 10 points below my goal. Identify your automatic story. What is the immediate negative interpretation that your doormat self jumps to? Write it down. She said no, therefore I am unattractive. The project was denied, therefore my ideas are worthless. Construct an empowering alternative. Create a new story, a new interpretation that frames the event as an opportunity, a lesson, or a data point. She said no. Good. That clarifies she is not the right person for me, saving me time and energy. The search continues. The project was not approved. Good. The feedback revealed a critical flaw in my strategy. I now have the data to build a much stronger proposal. An unbreakable frame is not immune to hardship. It is simply better at metabolizing it, turning the poison of circumstance into the medicine of growth. You are the architect. Start building better stories. Step 4. The Law of Congruent Action. The fourth law of the doormat's decree is a masterpiece of self-sabotage. Your principles are negotiable. Your word is flexible. Your actions should be calibrated not to your internal values but to the external expectations of the room. This creates a person who is constantly at war with themselves. They believe in honesty, but they tell white lies to avoid conflict. They value their health, but they skip the gym to please a friend who wants to get drinks. They want respect, but their actions are consistently subservient. This gap between your stated values and your actual behavior is a chasm where self-respect goes to die. To forge an unbreakable frame, you must live by the law of congruent action. Your actions must become a perfect, unwavering reflection of your internal frame and your stated principles. Your word must be your bond, first and foremost to yourself. When you say you are going to do something, you do it. Not because of external accountability, but because to do otherwise would be an act of self-betrayal, a crack in your own frame. Integrity isn't a virtue you display for others. It is the structural steel of your own character. A man with a congruent frame is a force of nature. People may not always like what he does, but they will always know where he stands. His presence has weight because it is backed by the iron of his own consistency. A doormat is light and easily moved because he is hollow. His insides don't match his outsides. Our friend Marcus, now an aspiring entrepreneur building his own app, faced this test head-on. He was running out of money. The pressure was immense. An opportunity arose to take on some freelance consulting work with a large, bureaucratic company. The pay was excellent, and it would solve his financial problems. During the interview process, the hiring manager made it clear they valued team players and people who don't rock the boat. He hinted that to get things done, you had to play politics, cut a few corners on quality to meet aggressive deadlines, and tell senior management what they wanted to hear. The doormat's decree whispered seductively in Marcus's ear, "Just take the money, bend a little. You can go back to your principles later. Survival comes first." This was the ultimate temptation, a golden bridge back to the land of comfortable self-betrayal. Marcus had built his citadel. He had been through the forge. He had become the architect of his perception. Now he had to live it. He thought of his personal constitution, the principles he had written in his journal. One of them was, produce work of uncompromising quality. My name is on it. Another was, communicate with radical honesty even when it's difficult. He looked the hiring manager in the eye and said, respectfully but firmly, "I understand the pressures you're under, but my professional standard is to deliver the highest quality work possible and to be transparent about timelines and challenges. If the culture here requires compromising those standards, then I'm afraid this isn't the right fit for me." He walked away from the interview knowing he had likely just turned down a financial lifeline. The fear was real, but it was overshadowed by an exhilarating, profound sense of power. He hadn't just spoken his values, he had acted on them, even at a significant personal cost. He had chosen integrity over comfort. He had proven to himself that his frame was not for sale. 2 weeks later, a different manager from that same company, who had been peripherally involved in the interview process, reached out to him directly. He said, "I overheard your conversation with my colleague. We have a special projects team that is struggling precisely because of the culture he described. We need someone with your principles to lead a turnaround. The job is yours, with full creative and ethical control if you want it." He had been tested, and because his frame held, he was not just rewarded. He was given the exact opportunity he was built for. Congruence is a magnet for the right kind of people and the right kind of opportunities. This is your fourth actionable step. Conduct a congruence audit. Take the principles you defined in step 1. Now, for the next week, write down every action you take that violates those principles. Be brutally honest with yourself. Did you say you value health but ate junk food and skipped your workout? Write it down. Did you say you value honesty but exaggerated a story to make yourself look better? Write it down. Did you say you value your time but spent 2 hours scrolling mindlessly? Write it down. Do not judge yourself, just collect the data. At the end of the week, look at the list. This is the gap where your power is leaking out. Now pick one of those inconsistencies and make a solemn vow to close the gap. If you value your health, your very next meal will be a healthy one. If you value your time, you will set a timer and read a book for 30 minutes instead of scrolling. Start small. The goal is to weld your actions to your values, one link at a time, until they are a single, unbreakable chain. Step 5. The Sentinel of the Present Moment. The fifth and final law of the doormat's decree is that you must live anywhere but here. You must be a prisoner of your past, constantly replaying your mistakes, your embarrassments, your regrets. Or you must be a hostage to your future, paralyzed by anxiety about what might go wrong, what people might think, whether you will succeed or fail. The present moment, the only place where you have any real power to act, is treated as nothing more than a frantic, unpleasant bridge between a regrettable past and a terrifying future. This state of mental time travel is what keeps you weak, scattered, and ineffective. To forge the final component of your unbreakable frame, you must become the sentinel of the present moment. You must train your mind to stand guard at the gate of the now, and to view the past as a library for lessons and the future as a destination for planning, but to live and operate exclusively in the present. The Stoics had two powerful tools for this: prosage, the practice of mindfulness and attention on the task at hand, and memento mori, the meditation on your own mortality. Combining these two creates a mindset of ferocious focus. Memento mori isn't morbid, it's an instrument of clarification. The knowledge that your time is finite, that the clock is ticking, strips away the trivial, the petty, the bullshit. It forces you to ask the most important question: is what I am doing right now a worthy use of a moment of my irreplaceable life? This question silences anxiety about the future and regret about the past. All that matters is the action you are taking in this moment. Let's look at Marcus one last time. He's building his app. The work is hard. Some days he is filled with doubt. He worries. What if no one buys it? What if it's a total failure? What if I've wasted all my time and money? This is the voice of future anxiety, the ghost from the decree. On other days he thinks, I should have started this 5 years ago. I've wasted so much of my life being a doormat. This is the voice of past regret. He realizes that this mental chatter is his final enemy. It is the saboteur that drains his energy and focus from the actual work of writing code, designing interfaces, and solving problems. So he places a small, simple object on his desk, a smooth gray stone he found on a walk. This stone is his memento mori. Every time he feels his mind drifting into anxiety or regret, he picks it up. The cold, solid reality of the stone in his hand brings him back to the present. It is his reminder. You are alive, you are here, this moment is all you have. The stone asks him, will you spend this moment worrying about phantoms, or will you spend it laying the next brick of your creation? He pairs this with prosage. When he is coding, he is only coding. He's not thinking about marketing. He's not thinking about reviews. He is focused entirely on the single line of code in front of him, the single logical problem to be solved. He applies the Stoic maxim: the obstacle in the path becomes the path. The bug in the code isn't an annoyance, it is the work. The difficult design choice isn't a roadblock, it is the work. He learns to find a state of deep, present moment immersion in the process itself, detaching his sense of accomplishment from the distant, imagined outcome. This is how he finishes his app, not through a grand burst of inspiration, but through 10,000 focused, present moments stacked one on top of the other. The day he finally submits it to the App Store, he feels a quiet satisfaction, but his peace is not dependent on its success. He has already won because he lived with purpose through the process. The frame is complete. The success or failure of the app is now an external event, outside his citadel, to be observed and learned from. but not to be given the power to define him. Your final actionable step is to anchor yourself in the present. Choose your own memento mori. It can be a coin, a picture, a quote on your wall, or a simple hourly reminder on your phone that says, "Are you here?" The goal is to have a physical or digital trigger that pulls your wandering mind back to the now. Then practice single tasking. When you are working, just work. When you are eating, just eat. When you are with your family, be fully with them, not checking your phone, not replaying a conversation from work. Give the gift of your full attention to whatever is in front of you. The power you seek is not in the future. It is in the depth of focus you can bring to the present moment. An unbreakable frame is built one present moment at a time. So there they are, the 5 Stoic steps to shatter the doormat's decree and forge an unbreakable frame. 1. Declare the sovereignty of your inner citadel. Your worth is defined by you, and you alone. 2. Enter the forge of voluntary hardship. Actively seek discomfort to build resilience. 3. Become the architect of perception. It is not events but your stories about them that shape your reality. 4. Obey the law of congruent action. Weld your behavior to your principles until they are one and the same. 5. Stand as the sentinel of the present moment. Live and act in the only place you have power, right here, right now. This is not a list of tips. This is a new operating system for your life. The person you were, the one who lived by the doormat's decree, is now a choice. You can continue to let that ghost haunt your days and nights, or you can turn, face it, and inform it that its authority is no longer recognized. The path is not easy. It requires discipline. It requires courage. It requires you to go to war with the weakest parts of yourself. But on the other side of that war is not just confidence or success. It is freedom. The freedom to be yourself unapologetically. The freedom to move through the world with a quiet power that needs no announcement. The freedom of an unbreakable frame. The decree has been read. Now it is time for your rebellion to begin. The forge is waiting.